Well, I'm John Perry Barlow, and I've been working on trying to keep the internet free and open and accessible to all thought and all points of view for the last 23 years, formally and officially. I have a mission, which is that one day everybody everywhere will be able to know as much as can be known by somebody with his intellectual capacities, and nothing will stand in the way of that. I have a mission in that I want to see all of the methods by which we govern ourselves to be completely transparent to those who are being governed. And I have a mission in wanting to make certain that people have as much privacy as they want, though, part of my mission in that regard is to get people comfortable with the idea that the technology does not necessarily seem to be angled at having much privacy, and fortunately I was raised in conditions where I didn't have any, and I don't worry about it very much. And I'm hopeful that, the future will consist of a world where people don't have to worry about it much. Well, I think I will be sort of controversial in my views on this, because I'm not quite as upset about PRISM as a lot of other people in my camp are. I mean, my organization, EFF, has been suing the NSA for some time around warrantless wiretapping, and we do have concerns that I think are extremely important about gathering information on miscellaneous Americans. But I also know, I do consulting for the NSA and the CIA, and I also know what they're trying to do. And given that, it's not quite as worrisome to me as it would be if you're just looking at it from the perspective of somebody who's reading about it in The Guardian. They're trying to create a real understanding of the entire background noise pattern of all of digital communications, which is just basically everything, in order for them to be able to sort out those signals that correspond to the kinds of behaviors that I think pretty much everybody is in agreement about not wanting. Now, the problem, of course, is that once you develop the ability to do that, you can start to focus on other kinds of behaviors. So what's really important here is not so much ability as intention. And, that's part of why EFF is doing what we do with regard to trying to limit the ability, or at least to make certain that the ability is within a legal construct that is publicly available and understood. But at the same time, I'm not terribly concerned about the effect. First of all, I know that the people who are doing this have a set of intentions that I agree with. Second, I know that they're not very good at it, and that we're spared their despotism by their incompetence. Third, I know that even though they are acquiring the ability to gather a very great deal of information, data, be clear on that, they're not very good at figuring out how to sort information out of those data, and there's a big difference between information and data. And what they're doing at the moment basically is creating larger and larger haystacks for themselves with the same number of needles inside. It's a complex topic. It's not quite as simple as thinking that, they're out there listening to every word you say. In some very abstract way, they may be recording everything, but that's very different from being able to listen to it or take interest in it or even give a shit about it. Somebody this morning used the term illegal zones. I like that. Because there is, as long as I've been around this stuff, there is this gap between the leading edge of technology and the leading edge of law, and the gap isn't getting any narrower. I expected eventually that law would start figuring this stuff out, but the fact is that there are a whole bunch of people in positions of power that are dynamically anti-clueful. They don't get it for a lot of reasons, including they don't want to get it. And we just have to go through, I think, a generational shift. Sometimes changes are so large that you have to have a lot of people die before they can take place. And I think we're in the middle of one of those. I feel like I've always had the same career, regardless of what I've been doing. I mean, what I want to do is to make it possible for more people to know more and for more people to be connected to one another. And, you know, I've seen a lot of the things that I thought might have that effect turn out to be diabolical. And at the same time, I think that many of the things that I thought were going to be ineffectual have turned out to be marvelous. You know, I mean, I practically awaken every morning grateful once more for Wikipedia. So, you know, I see my dreams realized all the time, and I see my worst nightmares realized all the time. And, you know, I'm not one of those Americans who thinks that things are either one way or the other. I'm very much of the both and school. I think, you know, one of the things that I want to try to convey is that many of these things are not as simple as I would have them be, or as some people in this room would have them be. I mean, we all want a free world, but you know, we get down to the cases, and you know, oftentimes freedom has to apply to some terrible things. You know, I mean, as John Stuart Mill said, and I'll probably repeat this, liberty resides in the rights of that person whose views you hold most odious. And not everybody is comfortable with that kind of freedom. And, you know, we have a lot of difficulty with the methodology that we would seek to apply. So, you know, I probably will encourage some friends in the audience and make some enemies that didn't think that they would be enemies. I think the open source movement is another one of those things like Wikipedia that goes on being inspiring, and you know, it has become so huge and so complex in its dimensions that, you know, I don't feel like it's humanly possible for anybody to keep abreast of everything that's going on in it. You know, I'm reasonably familiar with most of the things that I care about. I certainly know a lot about what's going on with the Tor project, since that's an EFF, you know, stepchild, I guess you'd say. And I am just very much in favor of the universal conspiracy to be open. The open conspiracy is very important to me, regardless of how it manifests itself.